All right, we are live. Anthony Vennare, welcome back, my friend.
Going on? Good to chat again.
It's always a pleasure. I love the work that you guys do at Fit In Insider, both you and your brother Joe. And it's just cool to kind of do these roughly once a year, catch up with you and get your insights and see what's shaking. We obviously, we talk more often than that, but same kind of thing I always say about you guys. I really respect what you built over there at Fit Insider. I think you guys produce a ton of value for the industry, and you're always kind of I as a content creator and media kind of guy myself, like I always look what you guys do. I'm like, man, they're always hustling, right? They're always innovating. They're always looking for ways to make the dream work, right? And I appreciate about that about you guys. So anyway, I'm gonna stop, fluffing you up here a little bit, and we'll get into what we're going to talk about. First of all, for people who expect what we're going to talk about is I want to get an update on everything Fit Insider. You guys had a great new partnership announced with eGym, which I think is really exciting. I like you guys. I like eGym. And I thought it would be fun because last year, or at the end of 2022, we did some predictions for 2023, right? And I want to review those and kind of see like how those actually went, right? I think a lot of time, like so far I've seen too many podcasts and things about, the recap of 2023 or, the future of 2024. But I want to go back and actually see how we're doing in these types of conversations. So that'll be pretty fun. So let's do this, Anthony. I'll stop talking. Give us an update on all things Fit Insider. What's new with you guys over the last year? Obviously, you're continually to build, but yeah, give us some insight on what's going on.
No, I appreciate that. Lots of happenings on 2023 for us, especially at the end of the year. As we talked about before, we set out to kind of change the way that I think our industry, but in general, B2B media operates. For us, it's always been ads and pay to play and just a different type of thing that we don't like to do. We didn't think it really added value to the market. So for 2 years plus, we didn't take an ad. We didn't promote a single service of Fit Insider. We didn't take dollars to write anything or do anything. We put out content, newsletter, podcast, jobs board for free every single week. And we did that with a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes. And at the end of the year, we got to actually announce what those things were. So big moves with one, we launched sponsorships, which includes the eGym partnership. So just taking on very high level, limited partnerships and sponsorships on the newsletters and podcasts. There is still no pay to play. We won't write a story about you if you give us money. We won't do any of that. But we have a sponsor for the podcast, eGym, and they're also sponsoring Well-To-Do, which is a company we acquired out of Europe and UK, which covers international markets, which we're really excited about. The international markets and what's changing over there is so exciting. Next is the newsletter sponsorships, just kind of Morning Brew, Hustle, any newsletter that you probably get anywhere has a presented by section that says this newsletter is printed by this person. We launched that. And then we made some really cool updates to the jobs board where, again, it's free for everybody. There's thousands of jobs. You can post jobs for free, but we added a few other kind of services on top of that where you can, again, sticking to our kind of guns of it's free for everybody. Any company, big or small, can post. If you want to feature some things, promote some things, you do that. And then we actually launched a press release service too, which was really exciting. We heard a ton from the market that, this pay to play of like hiding a story behind someone giving you money is just terrible, I think. And then on the other end, there's press release platforms that, PR Newswire, Business Newswire, they kind of just send them out, but no one really sees them. We built a curated one. It's for the industry. It's approved by me personally. So every story I review and I make sure it fits the market. We only probably approve 60% of them. So we have very strict guidelines, and it can go on the site and get distributed out there, but it is a press release. It is a company sharing their press. It is not some content hidden system where people can try to hide stories and things. So all of those new media services are exciting. And then on the actual services side, we launched the Talent Network, which sits underneath our jobs board, and the recruiting firm. So we are working with a ton of companies right now to place people at those companies, high-level roles across health, wellness, fitness, active lifestyle, and recreation. And then we launched the the consulting service, which sits underneath our data and research. Every week, the team is finding and surfacing new data, information, hopefully trends and insights that are kind of changing the market, what's going on. And we've built a really awesome team that does that. And behind the scenes, we were doing that for a lot of other companies as well. We're helping them think through M&A, innovation, strategy, fundraising, go to market. We were doing it, but we never really promoted it. We just opened that up to more clients. And the last piece, sorry, I've been rambling for a sec, but
No, that's
we
great.
have the fund. We took on more capital. Fit Capital, we've made 35 investments over the past 2 years, super early stage, pre-seed, some seed stage companies. We just brought on a good bit of capital for that, and we're writing in another round of probably 30, if not more, checks ranging from like 250 to 750.
Wow, man. Yeah. So a few things going on, I would say, right?
Yeah,
That's
right.
incredible. Out of all those things, like, they're all exciting, right? But what has you the most excited? Like, what when you wake up in the morning, what gets you really fired up about all of those? And I'm sure all of them, to a certain degree, on certain days
Hmm.
or certain weeks. But yeah, what do you think has the biggest traction moving forward?
There's two parts. One's the media. I just love the content we produce, and I love the way we do
It's
it.
good.
And the team
It's
we
really
have
good.
is phenomenal. And it's more like I want to be able to help the next founder that's looking for that data, or the next person that's trying to change something or do something. We want to be able to surface those things. That's not the best business because we really don't charge ads or anything. So on the business side, talent, man, so many people want to work in our industry, top to bottom. There's yesterday met somebody that was very, very high level at Meta, and they're like, I hate what I do. I love health and fitness. All I do is work out. All I do is talk about this. And I'm like, good, go work at a company that's doing really cool stuff in our space. Go work at CrossFit. Go work at eGym. Go work somewhere and actually believe in the things you're building. And they're like, yeah, but I'm like, I'm telling you, the money is there, the opportunity is there. I think people still don't realize that our industry has matured enough to where the capital, the money, the salaries, the positions, the brands are big and they are awesome and you can work here. And that's what our whole thing is. We recently just hired a new head of talent to help stand up this division and the talent network and the jobs board. I want what, I think I've said this probably before on the podcast, but in my opinion, if you don't have your health and wellness, nothing else really matters. Everything else kind of falls away if you can't actually be healthy and enjoy the things you're going through. Why not work on a company and work somewhere that's doing that? So, and especially for us, it's like health, wellness, mental health, women's health, active lifestyle, nutrition. Like there's such a big industry. I know the name's Fit, but it's such a big industry, and there's so many cool things you could do. And I just want everybody to work in this space, especially really get these talented people that aren't within the industry, because I think that's what's changing it for the better. I'm sick of the same old people saying the same old things, doing the same old things. We want fresh eyes, fresh talent in the market, doing cool stuff and bringing this experience that I hopefully is going to propel the industry forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. And it reminds me, as you were talking, I was thinking about Daly, new CEO of TRX, right? And I got to meet him and interview him last year actually. I forget what month we're in. But he comes from the Wall Street background, right? And he's just super excited to be part of the fitness and wellness industry now. Like
Yeah.
he doesn't really even have to work. He's just really excited to be here. And then he's pulling together what he calls, his team of Avengers, which are like these super talented, super successful people from other industries. And they're all coming in because they're fired up about the potential to work in fitness and wellness. So I think you really nailed something that's really cool and important. And I love it too. I love getting outside perspectives from people who are coming into our industry, and seeing the opportunities from a different lens, right? Seeing where we may be falling short. Like I had Tom Dowd from F45, you guys had him on. I asked him during an interview, I'm like, hey, where are we doing it wrong? Like, what could we be doing better? And he's like, man, education. Like the consumers need to know how good exercise and health feel. Like,
Hmm.
most consumers walk around, they're just clueless. They're just clueless. And I don't know if it's anyone's fault necessarily. I'm sure we can point fingers, but like, that's thing is like a lot of people just don't know what to do to feel better, understand how important it is for their health and just their general happiness levels. So I think it's really cool. A thought that came to mind, because you mentioned Morning Brew and your guys' newsletter, like it's kind of shocking to me that email is still so potent of a medium to get across, good media. Like email's been around forever, like seemingly forever. Well, actually, I remember when I tapped my first email, I was in college. I went to the computer lab. I'm going to date myself. It was like 1996. My brother was doing research in Antarctica, and I couldn't believe that I was sending almost instantaneous mail to my brother at the other end of the world, right?
That's awesome.
So that's been like, what, 30 years now? And I
Hmm.
just feel like, this is a weird question, but I feel like email has just stayed true and I don't see it going anywhere. I mean, do you ever see that medium being replaced by something else?
I mean, it's the famous Gary Vee saying that marketers ruin everything.
They do.
Um, and that's why we have been so protective of the email list, because I do think what you're starting to see is it is becoming less effective over time as people get spammed and sell lists and do kind of nonsense and send lots of emails. But if you do it right, I think it is one of the most our open rate is 70% and the
Wow.
audience grows by thousands every month. It grows very fast and the open rate is very high. And it's because we do our best. Like, I don't care if they click to the site. I don't care if they see an ad. I just want to get them their stuff. And I think with everything, podcasts, with what you do, like with these other creators out there, if you truly value your community and you protect them, email is insane of a value to, like, I mean, be able to reach them so fast and with such engagement. It's just crazy. So yeah, I think it's super undervalued. And I also think people are looking at it the wrong way, and they're using it as like a bullhorn to be able to say things here and there. It's like, that's not the value. That's not the thing. You got to build the trust and engage and get them to, you know, want to engage with you. And if you do it that way, man, it's the only thing we care about truly as a value for like what we do. You see like how we do the site, how we do the other stuff. Like, that's awesome. The audience is amazing there, but all we focus on and protect is like the core value that is built, the businesses we have and some of the ones that we could talk about later that we're adding on to, and everything. It's all from that email, which kind of funny because it started as me sending a Gmail to 5 friends. But like, being protective of that market, the fund, the companies, the services, the everything exists solely because of the Fit Insider newsletter.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, email just seems to stay strong and you own it, right? I mean, I'm sure you know Pat Rigsby. I've worked with him, on and off for a number of years. He wrote the Little Black Book of Fitness Business Success. And I read that like back when I was just starting my gym. And dude, that guy emails his list every day and has done so for 15 years. Every day, 15 years,
That's
maybe
unreal.
more. It's unreal. And he's built a whole, like a very good business, right? Very solid business just on email marketing. And he's very good at it. He's definitely got his own style. Anyway, that was a bit of a segue. Okay, let's get into this component that I want to talk about the most. So we released a podcast together on this show back in November. It was 22nd of 2022, and we were kind of looking at 2023 and projections, right? So let's see how they went. Here's the first one. And I'm just reading this summation off my newsletter that I released. So I have an email newsletter to people if you want to go to futureoffitness.co and subscribe. Really
It's good. I
appreciate
get
that.
it.
So consumer fitness continues to shift from studio fitness to active lifestyle, in caps, active lifestyle. The hub of individuals' fitness and health is no longer the gym. It's the consumer herself. Active lifestyles that include a blend of outdoors, recreational sports, and traditional gym routines will continue to grow. Those that sort out how to serve and monetize will grow as well. So, active lifestyle, how'd that do in 2023?
I mean, the stats are there. Looking just at one active lifestyle, pickleball, but pickleball, paddle, run groups, gravel cycling, trail running, and then the hub and spoke model too, of like, the consumer is at the center of this and everything they can access, whether it's about them being outdoors, in the gym, at home, whatever. You got to kind of talk to them where they're at. I feel like that's obviously the future of not just fitness, but everything, is this consumer centric availability. And, what do they people say? It's omni-channel, but in reality, it's like adapting to what the consumer needs. But yeah, I think it's still going. Honestly, I was just on another podcast talking about this, and I still think consumers spending their time and money. I mean, look at All Trails was app of the year.
Yeah.
Like, it's a hiking app. that
Yeah,
it was
it's really
app of the
good.
year last year. It's just crazy to think about like how impactful that is comparative to just a couple years ago. Or, now you have to buy passes ahead of time and register your car to go to certain state parks and national parks because they are so busy because so many people are camping and hiking and being outside.
Yeah. Well, that's they went to the pass system here at Glacier National Park a few years ago, and certainly a lot of people who live around here were very disgruntled with that move. But I get it. We've kind of learned how to work the system and get into the park as much as we want. But it is interesting. Now, besides like an app, like an All Trails, like how are companies monetizing on that trend? Because it's nearly impossible, right? I mean, it's not impossible. I mean, you can have like maybe like some kind of coaching service that pulls it all together, whether that's driven by people or technology or AI that kind of guides people, that adapts to what they're doing in their lifestyle. But I don't know, how do you monetize that?
Well, that's why we always hype it up. And we, recently put out reports around like rucking and how important community is and like run groups and stuff. It's one of the hardest places to monetize unless you're selling the
Yeah.
products. Selling the products, selling the maps, it's really not a lot there, which is what I love. You can get up and go outside and go run on a trail and go do stuff. So it's more accessible to everybody. But yeah, it is really hard to monetize. I've seen some really cool community driven like brands of people organizing run groups in different cities. It was originally like November Project back in the day, but they had some issues and kind of went away, or they still there, but it's not what it was. But stuff like that, events obviously are growing like crazy in these event opportunities, and then just selling the product. Like the team at GoRuck is dominating. Jason's the man, and like they're crushing it. So, but that's kind of the fun of it, and I think that's why people are drawn to it. It's so much more accessible to if you're gonna go start trail running or running or hiking, like go outside, hit the road. And I
Yeah.
think honestly too, what's fueling is like Huberman and Natia and those guys talking about get sunlight, get outside, get off your phone, get away from devices. Like here are the things you can do that are proven to like raise testosterone, help like the amount of people I know that they're close, especially as we've gotten older, their close friend groups and the people they spend the most time with are the guys they cycle with, are the guys they run with, or the girls they run with. It's like that is such an important factor. And that like goes to, I know one of the other ones on the list is third places in community. Like everybody's looking for that. So
Yeah.
I love it, but yeah, definitely hard to monetize. And I think you're going to see, and we've seen lately, a lot of really bad ideas around monetization for these communities because they see the dollars and they know these people have high household income and they spend money on stuff, but nothing's landed yet that I've seen.
Yeah. And kudos to GoRuck too, man. They've been around for a while. And I feel like the market has really started to come towards them, and they're just in a sweet spot. They're set up to really capitalize on that community outdoor rucking as a category, which is not to say anything away, but I'm like, it's hiking with a pack.
Yeah. I mean,
But
the
it's just a cool
Facebook
name. It's
groups
got the
they
name.
have,
Oh, it's
it's like
huge.
they've been doing it for so long. Like
Yeah.
when I was in the Marines, it was the thing like in that community came out. They had these like their challenges where us like 2010, I'm walking around the city of Pittsburgh carrying logs with like 20 other people. And it was such a weird thing at the time, and they're still doing it. So I mean, I love that type of stuff. That kind of grind mentality of always doing it. And now Jason with like the CrossFit partnership, super smart.
Yeah. Yeah. When I had my CrossFit affiliate, we kind of became, I don't know, can't remember what it was, like a GoRuck partner or a GoRuck affiliate. And it was pretty cool to do some of those community events. Okay. Moving on. Next category, engaged underserved audiences, boomers, seniors, Generation Z, kids, etc. These are typically underserved and considerably large percentages of our population that many savvy businesses are looking to activate and engage. So how'd that go in 2023? Who started to capitalize on that potential movement?
Yeah, lots of companies targeting older population, both for fitness and wellness and health, and then kind of the social side of wellness as well. A lot of really
Mhm.
cool companies. I think who was it? Uh, was it Bold that just raised a bunch of money? Age Bold, Forever Fit, and like the Mighty Health, and yeah, they're crushing it for those older populations. And then it kind of tags into like the broader trend of like longevity. That's health span and longevity is can you I mean, every single person is talking about longevity and health span extension, not, and that's what it is. And then, I mean, Gen Z, how many times have you seen articles and headlines and quote unquote reports of like Gen Z wants to do this or that for fitness and wellness and health, and they care about mental health and food and whatever else. And I think everybody's targeting them. We see what consumer spend power they have and what interest they have, and they are very much, if you look at the trend of them with creators online and fitness and being, filling these big box gyms like Alpha Land and those types of gyms in big markets, as well as just mental health and wellness and starting to understand like food systems and the food side of things. Crazy opportunity still.
On the flip side, we talk about underserved, but who do you think is the most served populations typically within our industry over the last, few decades?
It's we call it like the young professionals, like 20, well, probably now kind of touches on the older Gen Zs, but it's like, 28 to 45. And then it goes to like anyone that has money in that realm of people. So it's millennial, right in the heart of millennials right now. And they make over $100,000 a year. They are targeted for every which way of product for wellness. And that is the wellness economy right now.
Yeah. Kind of like the metabolic demographic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Well, next one, you just alluded to it. The year we're looking at 2023 as the year of wellness third places, similar to what Starbucks did in the 90s, meeting the consumer demand of having a healthy place to relax, recover, re-energize is a powerful trend in emerging sector. Very exciting area. I just talked to Dr. Jonathan Leary. I'll be releasing that podcast pretty soon. Gosh, we can name all of them, right? Pause. Well, I'll let you take it. Like, how do you feel that went in 2023?
I mean, it's my favorite thing. Like Othership, Pause. There's a ton of companies building really cool stuff over in London, in UK and Europe. Remedy Place, Jonathan's been dominating lately. Yeah, it touches on the growth of like contrast therapy, hot and cold, the trend that's happening there, but then bringing back this, or bringing it. I mean, it's always been around, but bringing more to the forefront. Think like bathhouse type mentality of like get together, relax, feel good, spend time with your community. Like I'm a huge fan of the Robbie and what he's doing at Othership, and they're opening a New York location soon. And I mean the revenue they're doing through their facilities, the communities, the events, they have like thousands of people show up for polar plunges and things like that. It's awesome. And it's really cool to be able to target this. It is health, it is wellness, but it's not, I don't have to go work out. I can relax, I can recover, I can feel better. I can do that versus, I have to go meet my cycle group or run group. Like I can, and other people can come around. I have two distinct groups of people that I hang out with, and some of them for workouts, some of them for hanging. And then I feel like everybody comes together around this one. Like we can all go to, and a buddy of mine in Pittsburgh owns couple float studios called, and they have the floats and then hot and cold in these contrast rooms. It's called Victory Float. And I've hung out with so many people and different types of people that would typically not hang out together because of, oh, let's all go do this. And it's just super cool.
Yeah, it is. And, it's funny, like in my community here, polar plunges have been around forever, right? Like we have one on Saturday. It's the Whitefish Winter Carnival, which is the most ridiculous fun thing ever. And we cut a hole in the ice. People dress in costumes. They run and jump in the lake, and it's just a cool cold plunge experience. And what I've noticed, we don't have any designated wellness third places as we would categorize in our discussion here, but we do. Like the sauna is packed at my gym and health club. We only have one major health club here, and it's packed all the time, and everyone's talking about Huberman. Like literally, you're sitting there, people are talking about Rogan and Huberman, right? It's hysterical. Like
That's awesome.
It's just so funny. I mean, here's my concern about that. I don't know, not a concern, I guess. It doesn't really keep me up, but are the consumers willing to spend a gym membership and a membership at one of these third places? Like, do you think? I mean, there's only a certain percentage of people who would have that type of disposable income, but do you think this is scalable to the degree where like a lot of people will have two memberships to these things?
Well, that's kind of before we jumped on, we were talking about like digital versus gym and the
Hmm.
same tired conversation around are people going to work out at home or go to the gym? It's like, that's not the conversation. The conversation
Hmm.
is eat, sleep, whoop, or at home equipment, gym, active lifestyle, pickleball, paddle. You have memberships and clubs you go to and equipment you buy there. I'm running races, I'm running marathons, and I want to do hot and cold, and I want to do recovery, and I want to do some version of if I'm going stretch lab mobility, I have the pliability app, and I'm going and getting a sports massage, and maybe I want to do an IV. Like the it's the wellness economy now, and no, people can't pay for all that. Most of them. I mean, that Target
Yeah.
demo that can pay for everything's great, but I think a lot of people can't, and that's where you're starting to see gyms that are just stacking. It was in this week's newsletter. They just went out. It was stacking different valued services and offerings together, or partnering to make those things available to everybody. And I think that's going to be the biggest issue. It's not where the battle is not for my dollars is not at home versus the gym or digital versus the gym. It is I am at the center of the wellness hub and I can spend my money on anything I want. And there are an ever growing list of things that I can spend that money on. And how can gyms compete with that? Or at least some variation of like a basic studio versus this versus that versus everything else. And that's where I think the fitness industry specifically has to get super creative and stop acting like they're, you know, God's gifts to the universe by just opening a gym. Like you got to do more and you got to adapt. And I think it's an awesome, and as someone who's owned a bunch of gyms in my life, I think it's a super cool opportunity. And Joe and I fight daily. We're like, man, we should open gyms again. Like this is such a fun time. Like what's happened with community and there's just so much unreal opportunity out there. So yeah, it's going to get continually crazy. And with the amount of pitches and information we see on a daily basis, man, I'm excited for it.
Yeah. It's funny. Every once in a while, I'll get excited about a concept, and my wife will get home and be like, "Hey, what do you think about opening a gym?" She's like, "Don't you remember like the last 2 years of gym?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "I remember being I was happy all the time." She's like, "No, no, you weren't happy all the time."
Never a
But
bad day,
anyway,
right? You weren't stressed eating your food at like 9 p.m. at a gym, like sitting on a plyo
yeah,
box, like shit, this is insane.
yeah,
Joe's wife's that's her job. Every time like him and I call him, I'm like, oh, let's do this. I just drove by this space, and you can hear his wife in the background, like, nope, don't do it.
yeah, yeah. I just remember a lot of times, like my nights ending with me, doing the floor cleaner, right?
Oh,
That scrubber with the beer on it at like 10 o'clock at night, just being like, what? I have to be back here in like 6 hours. This is anyway. That's sob stories. Well,
yeah,
it is interesting, and to quote Kelly Starrett, he was on this show. He's like, I think the thing that concerns me is sometimes we get the blinders on our industry because we've done a really good job over the past few years of keeping people in our vertical super healthy and optimized, right? But sometimes like the general population is so left behind, and a lot of it to me is just, I'm sure you talk about these terms like accessibility is a big thing for a lot of people. Yeah, I mean that's the only thought I have is like I think we can get carried away in our industry with all these really cool stuff because we love it. We're super into it, right? But I think most of the time, like stuff like as you mentioned, like pickleball could be the answer to a lot of issues in our country of just getting people a little bit more active and doing something fun and community driven. So yeah, that's my only hesitation in that category.
I agree. I think we've probably written about 10 different times now, and it's the wellness, we call it like wellness inequality, and like all of
Mm,
the most of the products and services that you see that are raising money and growing the average consumer, especially nowadays with how the income inequality is growing, like they're not going to be able to afford these things or do these things. That's why I'm such a fan of the first point on active lifestyle. And I think, the life changing event of joining a free run group in a community is insane. And with our
yeah.
last business, like we got to see that every day. And we were on the ground in Pittsburgh and Cleveland and Detroit and wherever. And it's like these second tier cities and areas where, you know, they don't have some of the nice gyms, or if there is, you know, those opportunities, it's country clubs and other things that most people would never go to. But then there's, even us, we would put on for years, we put on a free yoga event every Sunday in downtown Pittsburgh where thousands of people would come do yoga for free. And it was some of the coolest experience. People coming and doing yoga for the first time. And like when we first started, we had to pay and convince instructors to do it. And by the end of it, they were fighting to get a spot because they were on stage in front of all these people, and it was like a community engagement, like inbound tool for their studios because it was showing people this thing that they've never experienced, and the diversity of those types of events where you see the types of different people. Super, super cool. So yeah, I think it's still a problem with our industry. And then it comes to the other side of like, you hear people talk, don't eat seed oils, don't do this, don't do that. And you're like, there are a lot of people working 50, 60 hours a week. And you there's this weird judgment of how people, look at somebody who is overweight or has issues and they're not healthy and active and their family and their kids eat this way or whatever. And not saying that this isn't a problem, but to say you can't do seed oils, it's those funny TikToks of like somebody, "Oh, I can't eat eggs, I can't eat seed oils, I can't eat lettuce, I can't do this, I can't eat that," because there's always some influencer telling them they can't eat this or that. And they're like, I'm just
Yeah.
trying to get by, man. Like, what the heck's going on here? So I
Yeah,
totally
totally.
agree. And I think it's a big problem for our industry, not just fitness, but like wellness and nutrition and otherwise. Like, we got to figure something out. And there's some really cool companies trying to solve that. So hopefully it works.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's interesting. I mean, one of the ones, and we don't have to get in because it could be really controversial. But like when they start doing like meatless Mondays at schools, in public schools, that kind of annoys me because people forget, like, and wherever you stand on vegan, paleo, carnivore, I don't care, but like you can't deny the meat is some of the most nutritious food that you can get. And when you start to take away that from schools, and like sometimes it's the best meal that a lot of kids will get in public schools, is their lunches, and we start to take that away, and it just seems so out of touch, right, with
Hmm.
the common person or common American, that it can be a little too much. But okay, next one. Mindful movement represents the uptrending sector that focuses on movement health and those seeking to feel better in their bodies. So, mobility, soft tissue recovery, computer vision. So, I'm sure like the pliabilities, the ready states, all the mobility and recovery tools out there, things like that, computer vision. So, a sensei, stuff like that. So, what do you see on that? How'd that go in 2023?
I mean, massive growth and still, I think just getting started. It's like the you hear it so many times now from these people, like movement is medicine. It's actually
Yeah.
on the Fit Insider shirts that we give people that have been on the podcast and stuff. Like, seeing that it's not a it's not as much about this trend of where fitness is not as much about looking better as it is feeling better, and like being able to eliminate back pain and, help with so many ailments that the average American has. It's not about being fit per se. It's about movement and the movement health and understanding how to move in your body. And for me, like, I've gone through a lot of different health stuff over the past couple of years. I went from, oh, I'm going to max lift, I'm going to do this, I'm Olympic weightlifting, I'm competing for this or that, to like, man, I'm watching I'm on Kelly's app and I'm just trying to move and feel better. And I think it really has changed my life, at least. And I think you're starting to see people, if not, how they approach fitness in general, like the trend of people using these apps or going with these coaches, or like if you think about knees over toes guy and like the growth of what he's done and those types of people, even if it's just improving how you feel day to day or getting you better so you can lift or train more, people opening their eyes to movement health is super cool. And like, we invested in a company called Mover who's doing some assessment stuff that they're integrating with apps, and we invested in Recover Athletics that sold to Strava, and what they were doing for movement and recovery mobility and prehab for runners, and the growth that those guys have seen now internal at Strava. It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And shout out to Aaron DeJong. I've been talking to him for like 6 years, kind of following how they're doing at Mover. So it's cool to see the evolutions, and him, hitting the market, right? Okay. Well, cool. I love the category too. I 47 now, and movement health has become, a really important thing. I'm still not consistent with it as much as I like, but the fact that
Mm-hmm.
I know kind of what I like to do now in my life, I've narrowed it down to 3 or 4 things, and I just want to do those for as long as I can. And that's the goal now, which is like, I could give a shit about my strength numbers. I mean, it's something to monitor, right? And things like that. I
Yeah.
just don't care anymore. I just want to be able to enjoy the things that I want. And I think I don't think I'm alone in that either.
So
Okay.
fun. I gotta
Next
say
one.
this. A
Oh
quick
yeah,
tip for
please.
the movement health. I have a standing desk and I have a baseball click counter. And I,
Yeah, yeah.
lunges, squats, movement stuff in the morning and have like a little routine of my desk routine. Forget who told me to do this. Stretches, movement, squats, lunges, all of those things. And I have the counter that like sits in my face that I know I don't hit my numbers if I don't see the number on the thing. And been doing it consistently for a while now. It's been insanely helpful for like day to day movement and stuff.
Yeah, interesting. So you'll just be, I have a stand up, sit down type situation too. So every time you get up and you do like 10 lunges, you just click 10 times, or you just have a certain amount of things that you got to hit every day.
Yeah, lunges, squats, side lunges, certain stretches, and you do them through this counter. And I have a little like check sheet on my desk, and I'm like, oh God, it's only at 50, and I know I need to get to 100, so I got to go through and do this. And I'm terrible with habits, and it's actually worked.
Yeah. What is that? There's a term for some of that now. Is it like movement nuggets or movement
Oh,
uh
exercise snacks, Joe Holder.
exercise snacks. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
Joe Holder's the man, and his shirts are cool, and now it's all about exercise snacks, and so true. His actual content on Instagram and everywhere else is really cool too.
Yeah, you know what I like to do is in those rare cases where I get to where I take a phone call over a Zoom, which I'm really trying to do this year more, is like take a phone call versus sitting in front of my screen, because then I can like at least walk up the stairs, up and down the stairs in my house, or do something, just even just moving around the house, or around the house outside is just it's really dude, it's so much more energizing than just sitting in front of a Zoom for 6 hours. It's crazy.
Yep. Same. I don't take calls unless it's like we're presenting something. We're
Yeah.
taking walking calls, especially the new iPhone update has that voice isolation
Hmm.
where it blocks background noise. You can go out and walk in windy or not otherwise. And yeah, I mean, that's how I'd say my exercise day to day now is I walk, I get my steps in, I do my desk stuff, and I try to work out when I can.
Yeah. It's like, call it the coach's journey, where it's like, maybe you and I've talked about this, but I've talked to numerous people about it on this show. And in between, it's like you start out as a coach, right? And you learn a couple things and you think you know everything, right? So like in CrossFit, it's like, oh, you got your CrossFit level 1, maybe a couple specialty certs in paleo, and you're pretty damn sure that those things combined can solve just about any problem out there in the world, right? And then you start to learn like a little bit more. Like I started to go to OPT's education, or started, extending my education. I realized I didn't know shit. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God. And then you go into like this deep, like 5-year period of like, it's just angst and like learning. You're like, oh, I got to just rip everything now and start over again. And then you get to a certain point where like, you know what? Like people just need to walk more, drink more water, like watch what they eat, get better sleep. And that's about it. Like the most detailed programming isn't really that big of a deal unless it's like the top 1% who need to get, go from 93% performance to 94. And that's about it. So it's just funny hearing people like you talk, and Rob Wolf and Kelly Stark, like all these people I've known forever. And they all say the same thing, right? It's like, well, at the end of the day, just move more, eat better, and sleep. That's it.
Crazy.
Okay. Next one, so we just did mindful movement. Consolidation. So deep pockets in industry consolidation, companies that missed the mark during the venture capital driven frenzy of the pandemic days will become more and more appealing for larger companies to absorb under their umbrellas. Specifically, some of the biggest names in tech, sport, and fitness. Apple, Nike, Lululemon will look to buy for pennies on the dollar, along with opportunistic private equity groups. How'd that go in 2023?
I think I don't know if it made it. Water Rower just happened with City Row, and Nike ended up not buying but launching and investing an insane amount of money into their studios and otherwise.
Yeah.
Definitely consolidation. I think a lot of people are holding on from at least the founders that we talked to, especially like the insanity that was like digital fitness, connected fitness, and otherwise. There's a lot of people holding on by a tiny little string that are just trying to get by. So I think more of that now, but also the venture capital dollars are starting to flow again. These family offices are getting into it, and it's the same as last time. You see these investments in deals, and like, oh God, what are we doing here? That is terrible. The companies, you're like, I don't know who gave you money, but this is insane. So yeah, definitely happened. Not to the level that I had thought. For sure, I thought it would be way more, And props to the founders and groups that are holding on and building these things and pivoting like crazy to make these businesses work. And unfortunately, saw a lot of shutdowns that I thought should have been acquisitions, but from the conversations I've had, these, and you really start to see this now coming around, not just in fitness and wellness, but the broader market, realizing who your investors are, who your partners are, who is on your board, because these companies that shut down when they should not have shut down. And I mean, I've even been on some boards and involved with companies where you see other investors make recommendations and moves, and you're like, you just don't get the space. And I think that's a big issue too, is a lot of the money that was coming in from people that just didn't understand the industry, never worked in it, never saw part of it, didn't understand the intricacies, and making bad moves. So yeah, more shutdowns and mergers and acquisitions, unfortunately, for the industry, but I definitely think we'll see more of that this year too.
Yeah. Yeah, I always wondered. I've never raised any capital myself, and I'm like, I wonder if I could raise $1 million if I just came up with some kind of loose concept of like technology and something like, if I was just like, okay, no, it's laser guided wellness, right? And people are like, whoa, lasers, wellness, like those are really big things, and just come up with a pitch board and a concept. I bet I could raise a decent amount of money if I knew who to talk to, who were outside of the industry, right? They're like, oh, we want to catch this trend. Anyway, just things I
Definitely
think
could, by
about.
the way. 100% could.
You think so?
Oh,
Yeah,
what if
thank
we
you.
did computer vision for this? And you're like, yeah, we could definitely raise money.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. Okay. Last one, integrations in open ecosystems. So described as the Android of fitness, this trend involves content, wearable data, and much more. Peloton content offered on Apple. Whoop data served up directly through Strava. Integrations and cross-platform collaborations will continue to grow at escalating rate. I feel like that kind of came true.
It did. I thought some brands, to not be named, should have done a better job of that, and maybe their stock prices would be doing better. But definitely happened to a large extent. You're seeing it now with where your technos move in, with what eGym's up to, with these other groups, how they're trying to scale that up. And I think now, though, I'm not as focused on, or I'm not as excited about that as I am about the changing modalities of like fitness in general. Just like these, what you're seeing with, for me at least, it's an opportunity to, if I was building a gym, if I was doing these things, if I was doing it at home, I think we could stop talking about connected as much and what's happening there. Like I get that, but me being able to access this thing or that thing on my device, I mean, if it doesn't work, I'll just do what I do with my Concept 2 and put a phone on it and just watch Shane row. That's what I do.
Yeah.
If I need to do a
Yeah.
rowing
Dark
class,
horse
I don't need
rowing.
to, yeah, I'm just going to watch Shane do a YouTube workout or do dark horse rowing or something. Like the consumer is going to get around it anyway. So if you don't adapt, they're just going to do it anyway. Otherwise, just it. Like it's not too complicated. So I think if they're not already adapting now and doing it, so we're making it open source, they're already left behind.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. And for people listening, Dark Horse Rowing has a new app, $39.99. Go check it out. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the connected thing has just taken a beating, right? I feel like that term just needs to go into the dumpster and never come out again because it just doesn't help anymore. And it's such a broad category. I mean, what does connected actually mean? People ask me that, like, do you think connected fitness is dead? I'm like, well, what does that mean? Is that the at-home connected fitness specifically? Like that particular category, the Pelotons and the tonals, or is it like digital, enhancements of current things? Like it's just a broad category, and I feel like it needs to get more specific if we're really going to have good conversations around it. But I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I never understood it. I don't understand how people gave it the money and attention when there has always been workout devices in homes with screens and connections of some kind. I never I never got it at all. It's why we never invested in it as individuals. It's why we never, every article we ever wrote or every piece we ever wrote, it was always like, but this is what's going on. Like, but is this going to, we had to like follow up with our insights and thoughts. Like, this is not what you think it is. And I think it'll always be there. Everyone likes to work out at home, especially, at least from what I see, the ideal scenario for every person I've ever met is a sick home gym, a garage gym that has really cool stuff. But again, I'm not going to put a tonal in my gym and only have a tonal. I'm going to have racks, pull-up bars, concept two. I will have a stepper. I will have a certain device, but that's not the only thing I'm going to work out on or do. Or like I know so many people that love their Pelotons, and that's why I'm still believing the brand if they can stop getting their own way. Like there's so many things they should be doing to because their brand goodwill and the value and the product and what they've done, they had the opportunity of a lifetime and they just keep misstepping every single day. But it's an additive to this whole landscape of what fitness means to this person. It's not the only thing I'm going to do. So yeah, I think connected is relevant now at this point. Like as like a term and concept, it's just you are a equipment manufacturer. You sell in home, you sell everywhere, you sell in apartments, you put it in the gyms, you do these things, you provide this content. It's like call it maybe digital fitness or just fitness in general because they're doing it everywhere. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Okay. Well, that's it from the recap of 2022 or 2023 predictions. I think it was kind of fun to go back. We do this all the time, right? We always make predictions or, review but like looking at it actually what we said 1 year ago and seeing how that came to be was at least interesting for me. It's very insightful. Okay. I know you've done this ad nauseum, but looking at 2024, just give me one thing that has you very excited about the wellness, fitness and wellness industry, and then we'll cap it with that.
Yeah. What can be a unique take on this? Because so not fitness and wellness technically, but obviously is. I think the biggest shakeups are going to come from the nutrition sector.
Mm-hmm.
How people are looking at obviously everyone and their mother is talking about weight loss drugs. Great. So many terrible takes on that. Uninformed takes. Oh, people are going to take those drugs and never go to the gym, or they're going to do this or whatever. But
Yeah.
in reality, it's not just, it's yes, that'll have an impact. Weight loss drugs, we get it. People are going to look for the easy route. It's happened since the existence of pharma. But I think people are starting to wise up to food systems, what they're eating, where it comes from, what it means, how they can access things, and then realizing too that if done properly, if they're fortunate to be in a place that isn't a food desert, it has access to these things. Like I'm not saying that that's not an issue, but they can get food locally, they can do things better, they can support local businesses and farms and areas, and honestly, in a lot of places, it's probably better and comparable price or cheaper if you can look into
Mm-hmm.
it that way. So I think food systems is going to be the biggest change and how the consumer also understands. We have the flagships of Fatia and Huberman and Rhonda Patrick and these other creators, but we need more people not selling this, straw man food is terrible for you everywhere approach, but like informing the consumer what they're eating. Because for you and I and a lot of people in the industry, we don't realize that, yes, it makes sense. Like, how could you not know that McDonald's is bad for you? And they know that. But there's an entire level of stuff beyond fast food and Doritos that people eat that they don't. I've seen, I mean, you're a coach, you're a trainer, you're on gyms. I've had people come be like, I'm eating fat-free peanut butter. I'm really working on, we're losing weight. And you're like, what? Where did you, how does that happen? Or like, it's a funny thing to think, but like I've had that happen to me. Or I'm
Oh
on
yeah.
Nutrisystems. I'm really trying to lose weight, or I'm on this certain diet, or like I'm. It's just crazy. So yeah, I think informative, educational content is going to start to reach the consumer at mass, especially through TikTok and other channels, and give them the basics and understanding. And you see it almost as like this homesteading trend, and these other people that are like, I'm going to make sourdough and I'm going to do these things and I'm going to access food, or I'm going to find a farmer and buy a cow and it's actually 10 times cheaper than buying the meat from the market, or I'm
Yeah.
going to do these things. That is what I'm seeing as a big trend. And I'm excited that people can continually just learn about what they're putting in their body. Cause I mean, as you know, we all know it starts and ends with that. Everything else is a bonus if you're not consuming and adapting your food to you. It's not about one diet or one approach, and it's not about the meds. It's about the general consistency of how you're eating and how you're interacting with food.
Yeah. Awesome, man. I love that. I hope, I don't see any reason why that wouldn't be a big trend. I mean, it's certainly the education's out there, and I think it's the, I call it the Huberman effect, but all those people, Gabrielle Lyons and Rhonda Patrick, and all of them, are people are thirsty for this, and they're doing it, and it's relatively cost free. So I think that's really cool. Anthony, brother, it's always a pleasure, dude, and really respect what you guys have done there. Love your insights. It's really fun to talk about, and besides the Fin Insider website, the podcast, and you on LinkedIn, anywhere else you want people to go?
No, man, I appreciate it. It's really fun to talk. I know you've been doing this for a long time, and it's always cool to catch up with somebody that has actually been in the gym as well as kind of on the other side of it, which is fun to think about both ends and honestly think about. Did you ever imagine being the trainer? Joe and I joke about this all the time. It's like when we were like cleaning the gym floors. It's like, would we ever be on this side of things? I didn't even know this would exist. So it's really fun
Yeah,
to be able to be involved on the space that we're at. Honestly, LinkedIn's a big space for us. Hit me up there, the newsletter, and honestly, anyone and everyone reach out. Our whole thing is you're hiring information, news, access, connections. We want to be the kind of center and ecosystem of the market and make sure people can get the things they need and the connections and build their businesses, man. Well, like we said earlier, health is matters more than anything. And we want to help everybody that's trying to build in this space and get people healthy and do cool stuff, make it work. So reach out anywhere. And my email is anthony@fit.co. It's the one the newsletter comes from. Shoot me an email.
awesome, man. Keep up the great work, brother.
You too, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, Anthony Vennare.